Mishnah Berurah, Siman as we continue in Arach Chaim over here in chapter 90 of the Shulchan Aruch and in the Mishnah Berurah. And as we continue learning about these laws about proper places to pray, we are continuing. We are in Seif Chaf. We are in halacha number 20. And as always, we are trudging straight ahead through snow and ice, and well, it's still light of day here where I am, but nonetheless, it is still super cold, and I can never get warm enough when it is this cold outside. It is so cold. So, let us warm ourselves with the fire of the Torah and move right along here. Now, we're going to talk about entering shul. Okay, when we last left our heroes that we said he should have a special place to daven in shul. Now let's talk about coming to shul. So the Gemara says that a person should take some time coming in, and the Shulchan Aruch quotes it as saying that person should enter the length of 2 entrances and then begin to pray. So you have a special place to pray. Now you have to kind of prepare yourselves a little bit mentally to pray. You know, like rush in, throw your tefillin on, throw on your talis, or even for women, just to rush in, go to your seat. So what does this mean? You should take your time. The Shulchan Aruch explains, Yesh mefarshim. There are those who explain that the length of 2 entrances is that there should be a space of 8 tefachim, so 8 hand breaths, so about 3.5 to 4 inches. Okay, and that's the hand breath over there, including thumb. And so you should go in that close, so that way you're not sitting right by the door. Why wouldn't I sit right by the door? Because it looks like it's a burden to you to be in the synagogue. That sitting in shul so don't sit by the door unless you're at least 8 tefachim away. Okay, and therefore, if there's a special place next to the door, it doesn't matter. Okay, so meaning you can extend your benches all the way to the door, as long as it doesn't look like you're trying to leave. Okay? And some people explain that what's going to happen is if you're sitting there by the door, you're going to look outside, and then you can't pay attention, kind of like sitting next to a window. And according to this, if it's not open up to the street, right, you're not going to people watch while davening, it doesn't matter. Some people also explain that a person shouldn't come running into the shul to daven immediately. They should rather wait a little bit of time, and that's something that we concern ourselves with. Every single one of these opinions. So Mishnah Berurah explains the following. He says, I'm going to quote the Bach, who says that you need to make a little bit of a entranceway in front of the shul that kind of looks like the entrance that was in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, there was something known as the Ulam in front of the Heichal. There was this portico in front of the building that, in the front half of the building, that housed the Holy of Holies. And he explains what this means, and the Magen Avraham also brings his opinion. So what we do for our minhag is to make a little bit of extra space where no one davens, and you go into the main shul building to daven. Okay, so look, there's a little foyer or entranceway. No one should be davening there, and the main shul's closed off from that. So that, along with having our 12 windows on the inside. Okay, so you see, there's a lot that we talk about building. There's actually not one section totally dedicated to talk about how to build the shul, but we've seen already. You should stand inside the shul. The shul should be a separate building. It should have the 12 windows. And now you see also it should have a little foyer area closed off from the main part of the building. Does this bit of time to prepare mean in silence, or does chit chat also qualify? Well, chit chat is kalos rosh in the base is based on Knesset. So if you're speaking divrei Torah, that would be okay. So that would count too. However, I do think he's going to explain over here what it really means as well. So when it says that you should do the waiting part, the Mishnah Berurah explains that a person should be able to rest their mind, put their mind at ease, and be able to pray with intent. For when one prays immediately on coming in, and they're just bam, I'm davening, they're not really so clear. They have a little anxiousness. They're not really settled. So one should kind of settle themselves. Maybe chit chat is good. Say hello, how are you? Things like that. And also, a person should allow a greater person than them to step in first and to should hold the door for honorable people. Okay, because that's really important. Okay, so moving right along over here. I'm going to 21 over here. So we're now learning that a person should stand close to the wall. A person should stand where there is nothing obstructing their view of the wall of the Beis HaKnesses. Something affixed to the wall, like the Aron itself, the place the Sefer Torah is held, or other structures, are not considered a piece of matter that obstructs your connection with the wall. The Ramah adds, it is not considered an obstruction unless it's something very big, which is at least taller than 10 tefachim and wider than 4 tefachim. Okay, so taller than 40 inches, wider than about 16 inches, right? So it shouldn't be like a bookcase standing in the middle of the floor. But a little thing is not considered a problem. Okay, so a little stender, not a big deal. But a big thing is a big deal. So too, animals do not obstruct between you and the wall. Even people are not considered an obstruction between yourself and the wall, right? So you can sit through rows back. Otherwise, you'd build shuls that would be super wide and have everybody stand right against the wall, right? So, and the Ramah adds, and I say, having animals is an obstruction, and a person is not an obstruction. And I believe that this is the correct opinion of the poskim, of the decisors. And it's entirely possible that some type of error has fallen into the books that allowed animals in the way. Let's discuss the issue. So, why do we need to stand next to the wall? Mishnah Berurah explains. We learned by this story in the book of Kings that Chizkiyahu at one point fell ill, and he turned to face the wall as he was lying in bed, and he prayed. So since Chizkiyahu felt it was important to face the wall, that's something that we should emulate. Nonetheless, this is a nice mitzvah, but it's not because of any type of prohibition, okay, that you have to, squeeze up against the actual wall. So if it's not easy enough to do that and then pray, then find another way to pray so that you have some space and some calmness. Because what happens is that you have 10 people and you're in a little room and you can't all stand against the wall and something's in the way. So that doesn't stop the prayer. Okay? And the person definitely shouldn't go into another room to pray. He should stand with the other 10. Nonetheless, a person should try to focus themselves on the Siddur, or if they don't have a Siddur with them, on the wall, okay? Something where you can read the words of the prayer, and don't start looking around, in order that they should not lose their concentration because something is blocking them. So what we see from over here is that the issue of facing the wall is an issue of concentration, similar to making sure you don't sit by the windows and start staring outside. So we said one should not have anything that obstructs between yourself and the wall. Okay? And it doesn't matter how far you and this object are from the wall. It's just something that sort of gets in between the two of you. And it's just in the middle of the shul there. So therefore, a person should not stand behind that and the wall itself. And the Pri Megadim explains that if this obstruction is something outside of your Arba Amos, right, it's more than 6 feet away, it's considered not your problem. And then you can daven there and be between that thing and the wall as long as you're not directly next to that thing. I never really understood about this halacha is what if I just take a bookcase, right? Just put it like right in the middle of the shul. And you daven next to that bookcase. If it's big enough, why is it not the wall? It has to be the wall of the building. It has to be, a lot of these things are not really clear. So it sounds like you just can't have an obstruction between you and the wall of the base Knesset. So we also say that something else affixed to the wall, like an ottoman or some other type of box, are considered part of the wall, not an obstruction. Our beds, which are meant to be laid down upon, explains the Mishnah Berurah, and don't get moved around, are considered a fixed thing, and therefore one could daven next to it and the wall and not have it obstruct between you and the wall. However, some people disagree, and you should try to not daven next to a bed, rather stand next to the wall. So we also said that the thing that obstructs you in the wall is a big thing. So there's a Taz over here, the Mishnah Berurah explains, that if something is necessary for your prayer, even if it's really big, is not considered an obstruction, like your table, okay? Meaning your table in front of you where you're laying the siddur upon it. So that's why in many shuls, they have little tiny tables in front of people. And those are called, wait for it folks, shtender. Okay, that's the word that's used here. Okay, so it's a shtender is a little tiny table, and upon that little tiny table, we actually call them. Actually, our shtenders look more like lecterns. So he's calling them a table, but the shtender is something that it's something that stands up for you to leave your sitter upon it. Even though it's taller than 36 inches, which we just said is not a good thing. It's even so, as long as it has a purpose for it, that's fine, and many other Achronim quote this opinion as well. And the width, we said, has to be 4 tfachim, 4 handbreadths. And it says even if it's not 4 wide, as long as it's still greater than 4 and not less than 4. So that's a minimum and not an exact shear. So he said that certain things are not considered an obstruction, like animals and people. So the Pri Chadash disagrees with the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch and says that they are. Okay, the Ramah seems to say that too. And in another sefer, the Ma'amar Mordechai, there is a responsa of the Rambam of Maimonides that also disagrees with this. However, the benches in the shul are not considered an obstruction because they seem to be affixed there. So that is the obstruction. So don't put an animal between you and the wall. Moving right along over here, 22. There are those who say that one should not daven behind another person, and you should be careful about that. Why should you not daven directly behind another person? The Mishnah Berurah explains. In the same book, Ma'amar Mordechai says that it's really hard to be careful about this. It seems to be that it's about distracting you. And the main thing is that you should try to face the wall without obstruction as best as possible. So therefore, standing behind a person would be a problem. So it's not really a full obstruction, but a person should still be careful about not being directly behind another person, especially in synagogue, at any other place. However, if there's no other way to daven unless you daven behind another person, one could still go ahead and daven that way. However, a person who's very, very picky about things that he does should still be picky about not standing directly behind a person and try to be up against the wall. 23. If you have clothing that is designed, okay, and the design is in the fabric and not in relief upon the fabric, it is not appropriate to daven facing such designs. And if a person is asked to daven, if it happens a person comes to daven behind somebody who's wearing this clothing like this, or a wall where there is a picture like this, a person should adjust and avert their eyes. The Ramah adds, therefore, it is prohibited to place in relief designs on books when you are praying in them, because that distracts one's focus on the prayer. However, clothing that is designed with pictures and they have silly and ridiculous things on them, it is prohibited to even sit in the shul while wearing them. So let us go over the Mishnah Berurah over here. He says it's not appropriate. Why? Because people should not start looking at the pictures on your clothing and not be able to focus on their prayer. However, it's not a distraction or obstruction between you and the wall. So therefore, if a person hangs them on the wall, hangs a garment on the wall, or such as a tapestry, and there's no picture on it, that is permitted. However, we say that one should not even have pictures in the sidurim or in the books, and so too the Mishnah Berurah adds that a person should not make any drawings on the wall of the shul, especially if it's facing opposite you. Okay, it shouldn't be something that you look directly at. It should be above your eye shot. It's also prohibited to pray opposite a mirror, because then it looks like one is praying to their reflection. Okay, and that's even to close your eyes, because when you have your eyes open, it is prohibited because it's going to distract you. Sports jerseys. I don't think sports jerseys are a problem. The problem is the what's it called? The problem is the designs. Because I would even argue that if you have a lot of words on your clothing, that would also distract you as well. Okay? And so the Ramah adds not to even bring these things into shul, because if it's in relief, it seems like it's an actual design, and it's similar to what it says, Lo tavi toiveh el beisacha. Right? Even in your own home, you can't bring actual relief drawings into your own home. Now, this isn't 100% accurate because it depends on the intent of the artist and so on. But still, things that are in relief and are meant to be worshipped are problematic. But certain things are not allowed. The shape of the human body, the sun, the moon, and the stars, certain animals. And we know that some of these things were practiced even in ancient times, where they had mosaics and such of other people. But they shouldn't have any pictures or anything hanging inside the synagogue. Synagogue should pretty much be bereft of any images. Okay, let's see if we can move this right along. In 24, a person should not pray next to their master, their Rebbe, and not pray behind their Rebbe, and also not stand right behind him as well, not in front of him as well. And the Ramah adds, some say that this is only when you are praying by yourselves. But if you're in the congregation, if this is where people are meant to sit, it doesn't matter, because you can sit either before him or behind him. And even though it's better to be stringent, the custom is to be lenient. The Shulchan Aruch adds that if you are 4 amos away from your Rebbe, then it doesn't matter where you stand. And the Ramah says, look about the laws of respecting your master in Yeridea 242, number 16. So standing next to your Rebbe, because it looks terrible for you to be standing there right next to him, and also, you look like you're supposed to be his equal. And the Chai Adam says your father as well. Okay, But a lot of places, basically, the children stand right next to their parent. So that seems to not be the custom. You also shouldn't stand behind him because it also looks very, very haughty as well. Or some people say it's because you look like you're bowing to your master during your prayers. And some people say it's because it's annoying to your master because maybe he has to step behind you and you're still davening, and that's annoying to him because you daven longer. You also shouldn't stand in front of him for sure because of the same type of disrespect that you would display to him. However, when in a regular shul, the Ramah says that when you're sitting there, we know it's your seat, that's okay, and we know you're the Talmud, and people aren't going to worry about those matters when it's like that. But he says it's better to be stringent, which is to say that you look like you're basically crowding your Rebbe, so give him some space, and that's what we're trying to be stringent about. Okay, so the Berurah also says that it's better to pick a place behind your Rebbe, and that you leave Arba Amos and enough space for everyone to take 3 steps back in order not to be annoying. Okay, we also said if you're outside the Arba Amos, it's good because as we're saying, that's being in another spot. But there's some people who say that also applies to in front of them as well, especially when you're exactly 4 Amos, like you could lay down in front of him and have plenty of space. But really, the truth is that behind your Rebbe, you need to actually add 3 steps in addition to the Arba Amos. That way, he gets step 3 back. So that's really an additional length to it. Okay, so those are a couple of things. It's also say that and so that's another thing. So what we also learn in Yoredeya is that Arba Amos works all the time, especially behind him, and the Achronim all agree to that. Let's try to finish up this chapter today. Talmud Chaver, if your student is your equal at this point, one can go ahead and that person can daven right behind him, and even at the side of him, and even in front. But in front of him would still be Asur if not following the other rules of 2 Amos. 26. Every place where we say don't read the Shema, you also can't pray there as well. And just like we say, you have to stay away from excrement and urine and bad smells and from the dead and from the uncovered clothed places on a person for Kriya Shema. Those rules apply to Tefillah as well, and the Mishnah as in Talmud Torah and all Divrei Kedusha. 27 over here, if that a person is in the midst of prayer and a little child goes ahead and makes a mess with the urine all over the floor of the shul, a person should stop praying until someone brings water to mix into that mess, or they should take 4 steps forward or to the side or leave the shul and then finish their prayer. So if we see from here, one can actually move during their prayer. So it's better, the Ramah adds, to go to another place and not to stand there silently, because you might stand there too long to finish the whole thing, and then you'd have to start over at the beginning again. So Mishnah Berurah says this is in Tefillah, but this also applies to Shema as well, and every other type of holy things to say. And the reason why we chose Tefillah over here is because you have to move, even though we say you're not supposed to move. In this case, you could move. So the first suggestion is to be quiet, because being quiet is not it's not considered a disturbance in the prayer. However, a person could not go ahead and say, "Bring me water," because it's only a rabbinic issue. Some people also say that you don't have to even move away from it, me'ikar adin, and because there's no reason to stop and get other people involved. However, if the child is dirtying themselves with excrement in the shul, in the middle of prayer, and other people are there and they're all praying and they don't know about it, if you can't tell them any other way other than to tell them to stop praying, then a person should go ahead and say that there is a child in here who has dirtied himself with excrement, and save them from violating a Torah prohibition to pray in a dirty place. And we said earlier in Siman Ayin Test 79, and we described which cases are really prohibited by the Torah law. Okay, so we said this has to be actual excrement. Oh, did it really? Yeah, I'm sure it's happened more than once where little kids dirty themselves. And so therefore you should try to have things around to cover this stuff up and not try to make a mess and try to get rid of the bad smell. And the best advice the Ramah gives is to go somewhere else. Oh, good. They stopped the Torah service. So the Chai Adam brings that if a person is concerned that they might not be able to finish their prayer before the offending material is moved, and they can't get Arba Amos away, such as they can't get past another person davening next to them, then they can rely on the opinion of Rashba, who says they could pray. Okay, and then Meir Golaim is, and urine is only rabbinic. Okay, and we also learned earlier in Siman 78 that Berurah Kriya Shema and other such things, you don't have to start over again when you've paused to complete the whole thing. All right, so we just finished 90. We will find our heroes next time in 91. How to properly gird yourself for prayer and how to cover your head. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day.